know where the treats at.
Is this the passing of the torch, right? Is this what this signifies?
It comes down to that front office and what they feel is most important.
The champ is here. We've touched down from a higher plane. Why you made it here?
We always look forward to that week because it was always intense.
You know that we ain't coming back. We about to.
The man, the myth, the legend, Dante Hall. My favorite player growing up was Dante Hall. I love you guys in the show, but Dante was my guy.
Get to dashing because you done on the warfare.
This episode of Chief Concerns is brought to you by betonline.ag. BetOnline remains your number one source for all your basketball betting this season. Get analysis of every play, prop, and point at BetOnline. You'll find the latest odds, team matchups, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline is your basketball headquarters this season. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your bonus. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Hey everybody, well welcome back to the post-game or post-draft show, day 3 reaction of the draft. 2023 NFL draft is in the books. A great one in Kansas City. It looked like a blast. I know I was texting with JD. JD had an amazing time at the draft, and he had Fallout Boy there. You had a lot of stuff going on in Kansas City, man. It was like a Fallout Boy. Tej and I were talking about Fallout Boy is like the band of like our like you. I mean, like it was like 2 different Maddens where they had songs in Madden, right?
Yeah, they did. They made it big in the early mid 2000s, man. They had themselves a nice little run. JD actually texted me and said that he had really enjoyed watching Motley Crue's old asses get out there and do their thing as well. So it was really, I think JD just has been living it, man. He's being back in Kansas City, reminiscing on good times. I'm sure it's not been a bad thing for JD in totality for sure, man.
Yeah. It was our sports band. It was the sports band of our generation, is what we said earlier. Okay, every single college football, like cutaway, commercial break, you got that, Century song playing still.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They spanned for a while, and I'm glad they're back together. And I think they're doing a tour this summer with Blink-182 and a bunch of the old school bands from like the late '90s and
literally bringing the band back together.
I love it, man. Yeah. I hear those tickets for those that concert's pretty penny actually to get to that. Because I think they're doing one in Nats Park in D.C. And I wanted to go, but I saw the price of that ticket. I was like, I think I'm out. I'm not doing that. I'll just listen to it at home or go to my place, play that on the Bluetooth. But so NFL draft is in the books. I know everyone for such a long time, everyone's so enthralled with all the players and everything, the mock draft. So we can finally put the mock drafts aside. We won't be seeing any more mock draft simulations. Thank God.
Not for this year, at least.
What's that?
So not for this year, at least.
What do you mean?
We'll start for next year, I'm saying.
I mean, Jesus. Anybody who's doing that's ridiculous to start off. And I know you will be.
I'm addicted. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. Not yet.
But, the draft is come and gone. And, we finally have what it looks like. I mean, obviously, we're going to have the undrafted free agents to see what happens to kind of round out the completed roster until we get to the 53-man. But with this episode, we're going to take a deep dive into every pick we had on day 3. And then at the end, I'm going to ask you guys your overall draft grade. And then hopefully guys in the chat, and I'll be trying to look on Twitter as we speak and see if any undrafted free agents are coming over to us. But so we'll begin with our first guy that we drafted today from straight out of Virginia, man, Chamarri Conner, defensive back, who is like a safety nickel type, kind of play all over the field. And I will say the one thing I love about the Virginia Tech DBs is we've had a pretty good history with DBs with Brandon Flowers, Kendall Fuller. Pretty much the list stops there. But hey, those are two solid names with for us. But what were your guys' thoughts on Chamarri Conner? Daniel Jeremiah, before the 6th round started, he said it was the best pick of the day. So, and I like Daniel Jeremiah, solid guy. He knows his stuff. So, what did you guys think about Chamarri Conner?
Well, I'll say this, Teja and Marcus. First of all, glad to be with you guys again. The Super Dash brothers, as I said last time. It's good to be here to talk to you guys because I know that you guys are going to give this a fair shake. I know that there's a lot of us that, whether it's fair or unfair, will naturally be negative or overly positive on whatever draft pick there is. I think that we like to keep it very much down the middle. And the cool thing for us,
we're all speculating at this point. So yeah,
it's all crapshooting, man, for sure. And that's the thing, is that we were talking about it. The beautiful thing about our show this week at the Spoken Podcast was we got to discuss this in real time. And Chamarri Conner was the first pick that we saw today, obviously, while our show was going on. And so we did some deep diving as we were on the show. And what's crazy about this is that in my original mock-up, I had the Chiefs taking a defensive back at 134 overall. And I said the biggest reason why is because I think that the Chiefs need to look at adding depth for this year, but also for a contingency plan for next season, because we don't know the long-term status of L'Jarius Sneed, given that this is his contract year, and we don't know if the Chiefs are going to sign him to a long-term deal or not. I mean, you would think, yes, you would, but the Chiefs have never been a franchise, especially in the Brett Veach era, that has been signing guys long-term at the cornerback position. So even Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Reed have come in on 2-3-year deals. So I was very curious about that, which is why I had the Chiefs going there. Well, the Chiefs ironically traded the 134th overall pick to go down to 119 and get that defensive back. Now, I don't know if Chamarri Conner is viewed as a long-term replacement for a L'Jarius Sneed by any means. I don't know that. But I have to consider all factors. I have to consider all scenarios in this, because I think the Chiefs were very aggressive in this. I think that they saw something in Conner that they see as a franchise type of player. Now, whether he's going to start out, because the grade, I think his grade was as a 6, which is like a high-end backup / like 4-phase special teamer. But that's almost the exact same grade that L'Jarius Sneed had. Now, they might have different skill sets in the fact that Sneed's a little bit of a quicker player, and he didn't have as much good tackling as Conner did coming into the draft. But you've seen the evolution of what L'Jarius Sneed was. He was started out as a safety, played a little slot corner in college, but ended up becoming essentially a slot corner. And he's been able to be a very versatile jack-of-all-trades player. That's exactly what Conner looks to be from Virginia Tech. He looks like a guy that they were just sprinkling all over the field, and was a guy that I think led the team in sacks in 2019. So the Chiefs got themselves a overly versatile player, and I think that is exactly what Spags wants in his secondary, and that is exactly the MO of what Brett Veach has done in the mid to late rounds when he gets that day 3 defensive back, as a guy that can play all over the field. So for me, I don't really see the negatives in this. I don't see it at all. This guy was I believe, a captain twice on his team. A very smart individual, and we know that when the Chiefs draft defensive players, they're looking for guys that are intellectuals. I think that Chamarri Conner is that guy. I'm gonna hone my expectations down as far as what he's going to be in 2023, but it's really hard for me not to get excited about what this guy's going to be in 2024 and 2025. So I like this pick. I guess if I want to give a letter grade, just based upon, like I said, that I think this guy's a 2024 and 2025 pick, I'm going to give this like a solid B. I think that this is a good, versatile pick, and I like what Brett Veach did here.
Teja, your thoughts?
Very well said. First, let me say about like this day in general. I love that we traded up for guys that we liked. I really, in general, Veach sees the kind of player he needs, goes to get it. That looks like that's his thing for this year. So, not giving up a lot. We traded next year's 5th, but we got it back in another deal, so no harm done. As far as Chamarri specifically, DB in general didn't really surprise me. I think we talked about it on the first night. Like I thought we were going to go DB top 4 rounds pretty early. Like we've talked about. I think we talked about this yesterday. You were on the show. I mentioned how Reed is our 5th highest cap number in 2023. So DB does not surprise me at all. Basically, I mean, Edwards is a 1-year deal. Cook's young. But if you notice, Cook last year, mostly saw him as special teams, but you just kept seeing his number more and more at defensive snaps. You're like, dude, he's out there all the time now, right? So we know they just need a lot of guys out there. We lost Thornhill. Edwards is a good replacement, but you don't know what's going to happen to Sneed. Can we afford to pay Sneed a lot of money with Reed's number and what it is? As far as Chamarri, the player, off the bat, special teams ace is what I read. So he'll be on the floor. He'll be on the field immediately, just doing that at least.
Right.
Versatile experience. He played slot nickel, I think, 2 years ago, and then played safety all last year, box and deep. Great ball skills, great leader on defense. You touched upon that. Best at mirroring underneath routes. Lineups can line up on tight ends. Very physical receivers. The knock was that he won't be able to do that with receivers in the NFL because he usually just like dominates them with his hands and kind of reroutes them. Get a lot of penalties on himself too from being too handsy down the field. Can lose body control. Doesn't have top-notch speed and twitch. Willing tackler, likes to hit. Takes poor angles, though they said, and does miss a lot of tackles because of it. So he played over 800 special team snaps. So at least to start, we'll see him on the field on special teams, and then hopefully developing into more.
Yeah, the one thing I saw online earlier was that if you look at the comparison between between Conner and Snead, they're built like the exact same, which I thought was interesting. And also, when you look at his tape and you just kind of look at the write-ups on him, I mean, I live in Virginia, but I don't watch a lot of Virginia Tech games. But look at these write-ups with him and seeing all these things about him. He's a Swiss Army knife on the field. And
right.
Like you said, like the way Andy Reid likes O-linemen to play every position, Spags likes his DBs to kind of go over the goddamn field. And that's kind of
versatile. Yeah.
Very versatile guy. So, I mean, let's say Snead ever does go down during games like he did in the first drive of the Cincinnati game. You get a guy like that who can pretty much be the kind of the young version of him, and
man's version.
And if we don't want to pay Snead next year, we got a guy who learned from Snead for a year, and then you know what, he took over his role. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just saying it's good to get a guy who's kind of a clone of what we already have in Snead. So that's what I saw when we drafted him and did a little more research. I was like, oh man, really. At first, I was like, "Oh, it's we had UVA's Juan Thornhill, and now we got VT's Chamarri Conner taking over the UVA guy." But actually, no, he looks more prototypical of a Snead type guy to kind of take over that. That's kind of what it stood out to me. And we talked about on the show that we have to with the guy high price ticketed guys that we have to think about the future. We have to think about getting guys in who can lessen the cap hit when Snead goes and he wants to get the big bang for the buck. That could be it.
And Marcus, let me say something to that as well, because I had posted about this, and I actually a couple months ago was talking about the entertaining the thoughts of moving off of players a little early, and this is something that Chiefs fans have to understand is going to become more and more of a reality as long as Patrick Mahomes is the Chiefs quarterback, and he's still as great as he is, or at least as close to as great as he is that the Chiefs are only going to be loyal to one thing in the grand scheme of things. It's winning. Like the mentality has changed from what we grew up in, where, you keep players because you love them and they sell tickets or fans love them and things of that nature. That loyalty is starting to quickly go out the window because you've seen the way the Chiefs have already been handling business. It's stiff and it's cold, man. They're handling this as we're trying to win Super Bowls every single season because it's a reality of ours for the first time in decades. And when I made this thing, I made a comment about how L'Jarius Snead could be a trade asset going into this draft. Willie Gay could be a trade asset going into this draft because those are guys that both could bring you back some decent value, but are also guys that are probably going to get paid in this next year or two. So I don't know if the Chiefs look at those guys as long-term answers, especially when you consider the fact that at those positions, Brett Veach has been able to adequately replace players at those positions, and the team hasn't had any real drop-off. So as much as I love these guys and I want them on the team, we know that this isn't Madden. We know that this isn't a game where you don't have a salary cap and you can just re-sign everybody you want. So I was entertaining that thought before the draft ever happened. Now that I'm here with these pieces in place, where we can talk about in a minute about the Chiefs drafting multiple guys at edge and linebackers and things of that nature, I think that it's more relevant now with the safeties that they're also bringing in, that there are going to be guys that we love that are on rookie deals right now that won't be here on extensions. And we have to live with that and accept that and realize that Brett Veach is better at his job than L'Jarius Snead is. That's not a shot at L'Jarius Snead. That's praise for what Brett Veach is as a general manager. He's proven it time and time again that he can adequately replace guys at a much cheaper, much younger level. And then when we get into the season, we almost not forget about those players that used to be here, but we live with it. We're accepting it more and more because of the fact that he nailed it. And I think that's what's going to happen as time goes on.
Yeah. JD always talks about the aspect of younger and cheaper is the name of the game. If NFL teams think they can go get a guy who can adequately replace your production, maybe not the full production, but if he's younger and he's cheaper, they're going to do it, and they're going to find ways to do that. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the name of the game for guys like Brett Veach and other GMs around the league.
Mahomes, Jones, and Tooney take up 40% of our cap next year.
Wow.
And imagine if Travis Kelce was greedy.
I know. Imagine when Juwan Taylor's money kicks in.
Yeah.
That's his 1 year like discount-ish type number right there. After that, it balloons. So
yep.
I that's why I was surprised. I'm surprised now we didn't get a guard. Just to plan for the future.
I wanted Andrew Jason Voorhees, dude. He was there. The Ravens traded back in the 7th round to get him. I was like,
yeah.
Could you imagine? Because they say, although his doctor wrote that whole thing, I mean, he's not going to play this year. That's
no, you shouldn't play.
We don't need that. But like,
yeah.
Could you imagine just resting him for a year and you have your guard? And if we did want to cut our losses with the Thune's deal, I mean, if those three guys 40% of the cap next year, man, we're gonna have to play some ballet with our salaries next year.
Yeah. Or make a hard decision with some of our guys. Yeah.
I guess it's a good thing the Chiefs have Brent Tillis running the cap structure of everything, because he's been the guy that's making things work in that regard, because Brett Veach doesn't really have to stress on it when you have a human calculator like Brent Tillis.
Yeah. What happened to your lighting, Teja? What the heck?
Yeah, it went down for a second.
Jeez.
Oh, we got to see that face, man. What the hell?
I'll be back, baby. Don't you worry about me. I'll be back like Voorhees, dude. Don't you worry. Jason and Andrew.
Yeah. So Teja, Lance gave a B on Chamarri Conner last word here. What was your grade on Chamarri Conner?
I'd go a B as well, just because more than just the actual player himself, because you don't know how they're going to turn out in our defense or our team or anything. But just finding he seems like a perfect scheme guy for what we need. He seems like a clone of someone we already have, and it was a position we needed. So I would just give it a B just off that alone. The value seemed about right around there. I saw a lot of people putting him like the 6th or 7th round, some 5th, 6th, 7th. But, Jeremiah loved him. Again, like they wanted him. I cannot argue with the Chiefs scouting department and DVs right now. So,
yeah.
After
last year, I don't think anyone should and anyone can. All right, so we're going to move on to our next pick, which I love this pick. JD and I on our show this week, we talked about, and last year too, you could look at our mock draft last year. Last year, we went heavy on edge because we thought that was what we need. You can never have too many. We always say this. You can never have too many pass rushers and edge rushers and young, fast guys. This guy's different because this guy is something that we haven't really had before. A edge rusher who has that like tall, lanky basketball body. I mean, you watch Buffalo, they have Rousseau, who was a former basketball player. BJ Thompson, track star, got a scholarship offer for track and basketball on top of football coming out of high school. So this guy is everything that we haven't had during the Spags days, having a tall, lanky guy at edge and who's just a pass rush specialist. So he gets good to the quarterback, and that's it. We haven't had that. So BJ Thompson, a little bit about him. Started his career at Baylor, then went to Stephen F. Austin at 24 and a half sacks in his college career, 4.5 at Baylor, and then 20 in his time at Stephen F. Austin. Obviously, small school, but they still play the likes of Texas Tech and some of the Texas schools. But love this pick. I love the fact that we have a guy who can just get after the quarterback and doesn't really do anything else. We haven't really had that. The guy just does it. We drafted King Felix day one. We drafted Carl Loftus. These are guys who are grinder types. They are, they're not just, pass rush specialists. This guy just does one thing, and that's it, pass rush, as far as going to get quarterback. So really happy we got that. I was really enthused by this pickup. What do you guys think about this? Lance, I've seen you've been tweeting a lot about BJ Thompson. So what was your grade on this one?
This was another one of those guys that I was shocked fell as far as he did. And I'm not sitting here saying this guy is going to become the next Von Miller by any means, but like you mentioned something that I actually 100% agree with, is that this is a situational pass rusher. Now, you guys know how much I've been preaching about edge rush and how much I want to see the Chiefs answer that in this particular draft. Not just because you lost Frank Clark, not just because Carlos Dunlap may or may not be coming back. It's the fact that you got to make sure that you can consistently get to the quarterback each and every year. We saw last year the Chiefs were second in sacks, first in quarterback pressures, third in quarterback hits. Like, they were at the top of almost every single stat last year, and they still had room for improvement. And that was Joe Colin's first year as the defensive line coach. Now he gets a full offseason to really put the guys in place that he wants to put in there. Spags gets his 5th year as the Chiefs defensive coordinator. Him and Joe Cullen get to work for that much longer together. There's more tenure there. There's more common ground and understanding between the coaching staff. Now you're going and getting guys that are supremely talented and have, like you said, one goal in mind, and that's just get to the quarterback. And I love the fact that the Chiefs in their first 5 picks went defensive end, or edge rush rather, 2 times. Now, obviously, FAU is going to be has more expectations, but BJ Thompson can walk into this situation now with the plethora of weapons around him for him just to learn and study around and really gain traction. And if you look at NFL.com and what they're talking about, his strengths and weaknesses, the strengths are everything the Chiefs need. I mean, like a big-time athletic tester with explosive hips and plus speed, stride length to get on top of protection quickly, possesses physical tools for molding as a rusher, uses agility, length, and burst to finish in the pocket, and speed to track down ball carriers flowing wide. Like, that's everything the Chiefs need, because that's not what Karlaftis necessarily is. And I don't really believe that's what FAU is going to be on a consistent basis. But his weaknesses, what I love about this, and I don't want to sound overly optimistic here, but it's hard to when you have a guy this talented in the day 3 draft. All of his weaknesses are things that Joe Cullen can fix within a year or two. You're talking about, according to NFL.com, he needs a year for NFL strength training program to get bigger. He's only 238 pounds, so obviously the Chiefs are going to have to get him to 250 plus. Yeah, and it's the perfect city for it, right? Below average strength and balance in lower half. That's the same thing the FAU was talking about how he doesn't utilize his lower half enough. That's something Joe Cullen is definitely have his work cut out for. But those are things that can be fixed. And I can go down the list, but the point remains. Everything that this guy has as far as a quote-unquote weakness is something that it can end up turning into a strength. I guarantee you, if you look at any of the historic pass rushers through yesteryear that have been drafted over the last 10 to 15 years, I guarantee you they have weaknesses. You're like, oh yeah, initially doesn't sound so great, but you saw them mold themselves into becoming a premier pass rusher. Maybe BJ Thompson becomes that, or maybe he doesn't. What I do love the most, though, is that the Chiefs, they drafted a grown-ass man. Dude's 24 years old. I initially thought it was 26 because a couple of these other websites were stating that he was 26 years old. He was born in, I think, March of 97. Come to find out that was wrong. But either way, I mean, the Chiefs have a guy that played for a great established collegiate program in Baylor and then went over there and did what he's doing now, did what he did at Stephen F. Austin. This is a dude that's got plenty of experience, can walk in, and I'm not saying he's going to come in and be a day one wrecker. He probably won't be. It'll probably be 2024. But the fact is there's enough around him right now to learn from, to mold from, and later in this next season would not shock me at all if in a week 13 or week 14 game, he gets a couple sacks and he starts to establish himself as a guy that's going to become a cornerstone piece to this defense in 2024, 2025, and potentially 2026.
Yeah, and I'm just happy too because we tried this a couple of years ago because we haven't really placed an emphasis on edge rush throughout the draft. JD and I wanted to do last year. We did the opposite. We did secondary, and we fixed the secondary in one offseason, in one draft. This year, it seems like we spent 3 picks on the D line, 2 on the edge, and then 1 we're going to talk about in a little bit here. But I think it means that Joshua Keondre was the writing on the wall for him. I think he might be gone, and I think Joshua Keondre the experiment's over and it failed miserably. A guy who just never really panned out. He was awesome coming in from going to high school to FSU, just didn't pan out. Did pan out in the league, but I think with this guy, BJ Thompson, I think this is what we need. We just need a guy who's a one-trick pony. Just go get the quarterback, and like you said, I could definitely see him coming in the game and like creating havoc and maybe getting a sack or 2 at the end of the season this coming year. Like that's it. We just need guys who have the threat of doing that, and we haven't had that in such a long time that we can have a rotation, and that's what Spags is. Spags is finally getting what he wanted. What Spags even should have. It's a plethora of defensive ends who can rush the passer. We haven't really had that during the Spags era. Last year's kind of the first year of that, and then this year is I think we're seeing that with picks like this and with King Felix. So that's my little thing on that. Teja, what were your thoughts on BJ Thompson?
It's cool too. We've also adjusted to because Chris Jones is kind of the defensive Mahomes for us, right? So we kind of had to readjust to play money ball on defense too. So like if you're resigned to keeping him here, then you have to build around him accordingly, right? And what did we just do? We just pretty much revamped our entire D line in the past 2 years. We went from having like a top heavy one with Frank, and then now we're having all young guys on rookie contracts pretty much, right? Except for Menu. Menu was a great deal, so I'm not even worried about his contract. That's a perfect like second highest paid guy on your team,
Right.
or on your D line. I mean,
Right.
He does sound like more Thompson. That it sounds more like a project, but the beauty of the draft is, and Riddick was talking about this earlier. Not only who you are, but who you go to matters so much in the draft. You could be a great player if you go to the wrong team. We're never going to see that. We don't need him to come right in and be a pass rushing savior. He's going to be a project. He weighs 238. That's really light. He's not going to play in first and second down for a long time, most likely. He gets eaten up by the run. That's all weight related for the most part. He's just too small. A little stiff, not a lot of bend, but some of that's coachable. He has great straight line speed, around a 4.56. He can keep up with tight ends and running backs. So eventually, if you want to scheme him, fake rush, drop on a tight end, you can cause some problems with your guys. Especially we have other guys who can blitz a lot too. So you think of the Sneeds of the world who can blitz, Chanel who can blitz, Gay who's occasionally good at blitzing. So we have guys you can scheme up some really cool defenses with that. I just think for now he'll be a situational pass rusher, which we can afford because we have a lot of guys. We actually have a good problem for the first time in a long time. And he also made Bruce Feldman's freak list, ranked 36th, because of just like his makeup. I mean, he can put on the weight too. They said he worked really hard to put on like 20, 30 pounds this season, especially when he wanted to get there before the draft. And being near 240, 6'6", good for him, man. And if he can just keep working at that, keep pounding on the barbecue, stay off the vegetables, just eat a lot of the cornbread and sides, carby sides, he's good to go.
Well, seeing that I'm the local native here, of the three of us, I will personally make sure that Mr. BJ Thompson gets plenty of Gates barbecue. So that's gonna be a real thing. So don't you guys worry.
Lance.
Yeah, I'll put him on the carnivore diet.
Lance, since you're a native in Kansas City and then BJ Thompson will be there, I was reading an interview with him from our friends over at NFL Draft Diamonds. His favorite snack food is cheese dip. Most people here in Texas call it queso. What's the best Mexican? Where's the best queso at in Kansas City so our guy BJ Thompson can go?
I'm writing that down right now. I think if I was going to go with cheese dip or a place that has something that's close to that, I think that he needs to hit up some Mexican joints out here.
Mexican spot?
I would say, I'm giving some good shout outs here. I would say Bonito Mochoacan. I would say El Tico Taco. I would say San Antonio's. I would say, people are probably yelling at me right now in Kansas City, but I would say there's probably 30 places in Kansas. Like, barbecue is clearly God out here. That's God's food out here. But Mexican food is it's like 1A, 1B, man. We got some awesome like taco trucks. It's amazing stuff out here. So I think the El Pollo Rey would be a really good chicken spot. That's one of my favorite places to go to get chicken. If he's looking for snacks, there's a reason why I'm heavier than he is almost. And I'm literally a foot shorter than him. So this is perfect. I can be his guide to what he needs when it comes to the consumables. When it comes to cultivating mass.
So if you had one Mexican spot for a person to go to Kansas City, get some chips and dip, queso as an appetizer before you get the main course at any Mexican restaurant, which one would it be? You choose one.
I'd say probably San Antonio's, man. Probably San Antonio's.
That's a long way to go for just dip, dude.
I'm saying it's from my location. It's probably like 12 minutes from here. So look, dude, I'll meet you at Arrowhead and then I'll take you over there. No big deal, man. No big deal.
I was making a Texas joke. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, real fast. You signed your boy Nico Remigio from Fresno State, the receiver.
What? Yeah. All right.
And we signed Trey Smith and Morris's ex-teammate at Tennessee, Jerome Carbon, another O-lineman from that O-line.
Like that.
Interesting.
All right. Any running backs? Travis Dye? No.
No, we signed another receiver as well. I just had it up. We signed Missouri State, Ty Scott, and then Purdue cornerback Reese Taylor. That's it so far.
Interesting.
But I recognize Remigio name right away.
Yeah.
He should have been drafted by a lot of people.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of his. I don't know if you guys watched any Fresno State games. I'm a big fan of watching the West Coast.
No, I did not.
The West Coast games. You know, I am the degenerate side of me.
No, I did not watch any Fresno State games.
They were a fun team, and Saints actually drafted their quarterback, Haener, Jacob Haener, who's actually pretty solid. I could easily, with their quarterback situation, the way it is, still kind of like, I could see that guy being something for them, maybe, potentially. But yeah, so okay, so BJ Thompson. One little quick nugget. Not only the queso thing, but it's always funny to see how players compare themselves. So when they in the same interview, they asked BJ Thompson if you could compare your play to one player in the NFL, who would it be? I like it that he has the aspirations to play like a guy like this. I don't see the comparison, but I'm glad he does. I would compare myself to Myles Garrett. We both have big frames, quickness, and have a great ability to turn the corner and get to the quarterback. Getting to the quarterback, he definitely has that down. I don't know about the frame of Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's pretty girthy. Can
I say this? I really enjoy the fact that Veach finds these guys in the late rounds that are that confident. Because you saw last year Isaiah Pacheco talking about taking another grown man's job. And now we have this guy out here saying that he can see himself being Myles Garrett. I love it. Look, I'm all for you talking that way if you can back it up. So now what BJ Thompson's doing is putting himself in a position where he's like, look, I have to back that up. If I'm being asked a question, I answer it honestly. I got to go out there and kick my own ass to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you guys get grades on this one? Who's your?
Go ahead. Sorry.
What was your grade for BJ Thompson, Lance?
Look, I think this is a B+, and the biggest reason why is because of the fact of expectation of what he is at his draft position, what talent level the Chiefs got in that draft position. I think there is nothing negative about this pick either. Like there's no like off-field concerns. There isn't a huge injury risk. Where he's got a ton of injuries. The biggest negative on this guy is making sure that he can just get more refined and gain some weight. Like those are two very fixable problems. And when you're getting this guy day 3 and he's that talented, he's that motivated, he's got the intellect on his side, and he wants to eat with Lance Twidwell. I mean, that's about as good as it gets, man. So I think this is definitely a B+. I'm going to keep my expectations, like I said, low to what he's going to be in 2023, but I think this guy could be something good in 2024 and 2025.
Do we know his circumstances behind leaving Baylor?
Based on what I read, they were undisclosed.
Well, no, I don't know if you saw, but I hate to interrupt, Marcus, but he was supposedly he had left once the coach was fired. Was it Pruitt?
He was suspended under Matt Rule at Baylor.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, and then I think did the coach get fired there when he was there?
That's
Matt Rule left.
Yeah, Matt Rule left.
Okay, so I think that maybe that was the reason why.
But he was suspended under Matt Rule. So based on what I read, let me see if I can find the article. Baylor transfer was suspended for undisclosed reasons for 2 games of his last season in Waco.
Probably like a curfew thing or something.
Yeah, and then he left after that. And then in that same interview that I keep referencing, let me see. He talks about it. He just touches on it. So overcoming adversity is what defines character. What was the hardest moment in your life to overcome? So this is what he said. The hardest moment I had to overcome was getting kicked out of Baylor after my sophomore season. I was second on the team in sacks and looking forward to a monster junior season. I went home to Arkansas and almost gave up playing football. Didn't know if I'd ever touch a field again. I was depressed for a while and I lost all ambition. I sat on my ass for a whole semester, but look at me now. And look at you now, buddy. You're in Chiefs Kingdom, man. So
who knows? If he would have stayed in the football program, he might be like 250 right now instead of 238. Yeah. He probably had to like work all that stuff back onto him after being out. I mean, those guys consume an insane amount of calories. So if he was just like depressed and not doing anything, who knows how much weight he lost in that process.
True.
Yeah, and then you're talking about a guy that has redeemable qualities too, because he worked his ass back into football. I mean, like he was saying, he didn't know he was going to touch a football field again. So this guy's got that want to, and I love that about him out of a day 3 pick.
Yeah. He blocked 2 kicks with Baylor too that year.
Damn,
that's a great detail. I love that.
I mean, he's a long dude, and seeing some of his because he's a track and basketball guy too. Seeing some of his footage of him coming off the ball, it literally looks like he's coming off the blocks. It's honestly unreal. You look at some of his highlights of him coming off the ball. It looks like a dude just coming off the freaking blocks for a 100-meter dash. But
yeah.
Teja, grade?
I'll give it a B.
B, all right.
It's solid B.
I'll be all right. So 2 B's for you so far, and Lance got a B and a B plus for the first 2 picks. Okay, so our guy No John Marshall referencing Sean Tucker from Q's. He would be fun. The fact him and Travis Dyer are 2 of the running backs I wanted us to go get the 7th round to come back in and get, but I don't know what's going on with the running back situation. But hey, for all the Jerick McKinnon fans out there, it looks like we'll probably ended up bringing him back based on no action on running back. And all for the CEH fans, looks like he'll be back for another year.
Or someone else.
Potentially.
There's a lot of guys out there.
Potentially.
Maybe we'll go hunting for another running back.
Ooh, I like to play on words there.
All I know is that the Cowboys pissed me off 2 times in this draft. They didn't let the Chiefs trade up with them, and then they go and take Deuce Vaughn when I was really hoping the Chiefs would try to take him in the 7th round, man. I was really hoping because this kid, I know you guys probably – I don't know if you guys like him or not. I love Deuce Vaughn. I would love to have the Chiefs grabbed him, but that's just me. That's just me.
I don't think we were going to take him.
You're probably right.
That's the kind of guy we probably would have traded up for to snag. We wouldn't have waited. If we really wanted him, we would have traded up. That's one thing that is apparent. Like when he wants someone, he doesn't risk it. He goes after it.
And the one thing I'll say about the BJ Thompson pick, besides the King Felix pick, this is the one pick we didn't trade up for.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, he just fell to us and we drafted him. So, yeah. And Deuce Vaughn, I didn't know his dad's the assistant scouting director at Cowboys. So good for him. He's going to play for his dad's team. I think that's pretty sweet.
It was cool.
Okay, so next one. This was something that JD and I were talking about on our show for a long time. We actually in our mock draft had 2 DTs drafted in our mock. We just need, as I mentioned on our first post-draft show, Derek Nottie. I'm not a fan. It's time to go with Derek Nottie. We needed somebody else. Cassanders is gone. Brandon Williams is gone. I know some people reference Danny Shelton being on our practice squad. Okay, it's not happening. We had to bring in Brandon Williams for a reason. Okay, so I don't think Danny Shelton's going to make the team by any means. But you bring in a guy like Keondre Coburn, a D tackle, big and beefy man, 6'2", 330-something pounds. He's a big boy. And they play at Texas. There's a lot of film on him just kind of dominating other teams. Oklahoma, I believe he actually went up against our guy Creed Humphrey a couple years ago. I think he was a young buck when he did that. But Coburn's a badass, and the fact that we got him day 3, a guy who we'll be seeing a lot of, I think, because Nottie's nothing to write home about. I could see Coburn getting good snaps on this D line. Imagine a D line: Coburn, Chris Jones, King Felix, and Carl Loftus. Man, that's nasty. That's a nasty front right there.
It is nasty.
To have Coburn, a guy that big, to be able to do what he's going to do for Chris Jones and allow Chris Jones to not be double teamed anymore. Good luck. Good luck. And he's also, I think he's already talked about how he's so excited to play alongside Chris Jones, which I can't wait to see that too. And to have a guy like that, this is something we talked about the other day. Veach has went into this draft and looked at this. We need a D end. We need a DT. We need an offensive tackle. We need a receiver. He literally checked off all the boxes that we needed for this draft. It wasn't like when BJ Thompson got drafted, because Teja and I at first didn't know who the heck the guy was. We were talking, and Teja's like, "Oh my God, we drafted a linebacker," and I'm like, "No, we drafted a middle linebacker for no reason. We don't." There's been so many years in times.
Is Carl Peterson back? Where is he? Where is he?
Drafted a guy for a position we did not need. But then I looked. I was like, oh no, he's an outside back. Or he's an edge rusher. I'm like, oh, okay, thank God. We literally went for all it needs, and that's what I love about Beach. Every draft, it goes for the things that we need. It's not just some random fucking position. It's literally what we need. So love this pick. Coburn was by far the best D tackle on the board when we went and got him there. So love this. What did you guys think? I think this is my eight grade for the day of our day 3 pick.
Marcus, I'm gonna 100% agree with you on this, because I think if you look at Brett Veach's last 3 draft picks, if you look at his last 3 draft picks, or draft classes, I should say, you see steals. 2020, obviously, L'Jarius Sneed, 4th round pick. If you look at 2021, obviously Trey Smith. If you even want to throw Noah Gray in there as a 5th round pick, 162 overall, I'll let you dance with it. And then 2022, you have Isaiah Pacheco, you have Jalen Watson, and you have Joshua Williams that all fell to the 4th or beyond, and all were guys that played a pivotal role in the Chiefs winning their 2nd Super Bowl in 4 years. this will be the steal of the Chiefs draft. The reason why is because this is a guy that, like you just said, Marcus, is a guy that's going to play, I think, a legitimate role this season. I know he fell. I don't really even know why. I'm trying to look it up. I'm not seeing a whole lot. But everything about this guy is everything the Chiefs needed at that position. Like you said, Veach goes and gets needs. He's, according to NFL.com, stout, athletic nose tackle with nimble feet. He can sit down in muddy run lanes, create difficulties for pin and pull blocking schemes with agility. He's a 3-down lineman, which is so huge, obviously. You're getting a 3-down lineman this late in the draft. That's an insanely great value. He has a blend of girth, power, and agility to be coveted by teams looking to help with along the interior. His draft grade was a 6.1, which means that he's a good backup with potential to develop into a starter. So obviously I'm not expecting him to be a day one starter. A lot like Pacheco at his position, you saw him have to really work himself up to becoming that because the Chiefs had a guy that was already in place. They're giving an opportunity to play a position. But I'm with you on the whole Noddy situation. I think that now Noddy at best is just a rotational guy, and I think that Keondre Coburn is the guy that's going to succeed him. And a lot like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, given the opportunity they had last year, you saw that Isaiah Pacheco was just clearly the man for the job. He woed people in training camp. I was there. I heard the crowd. I saw the crowd. I saw the way they were just gawking over him. I think that Coburn, although he plays a position that isn't necessarily as sexy as running back, I think a lot of fans are going to really start to cling on him and jump on the bandwagon, the Coburn bandwagon, because I think this is a guy that is going to be, like I said, the steal of this particular Veach draft class. And I'll just get right to it. I think this letter grade is an A. I really believe just by the value of the draft pick, the significance of what he can be, the skill level that this guy possesses, I don't see the negative in this one more than any other draft pick the Chiefs have, including FAU. I think this guy could definitely be a special player for the Chiefs moving forward. And unlike some of these other picks that we've talked about today, I think this is a guy that's playing in 2023 and playing in a decently important position for the Chiefs, or a contributor at an important level this year.
Hey, could you imagine that there's rumors that we tried to trade up for Mozzie Smith? Now that we didn't do that, right? We stayed in our spot. Cowboys said no to us. We stayed and got King Felix, and then in the 7th round we went and get or 6th or 7th round we ended up getting Keondre Coburn. It's
blessing in disguise.
I mean, it's amazing that happened. So thank you, Dallas, for saying no to that, because drafting a freaking D tackle in the 1st round, where we got a guy who's probably marginally, I guess, worse than Mozzie Smith, I'll take Coburn in the 7th round all day long. So, Teja, what do you got for us?
Mozzie Smith, 6'3", 323. Coburn, 6'2", 332. Pretty close. Real fast, I just saw this is funny. Mozzie Smith's player comparison, Dontari Poe.
No way. Oh, yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome, dude. I wonder if he'll play bloated pick, too.
Coburn's player comp is Dan Williams, so that's pretty cool.
That's not bad.
I love the Coburn pick. In my millions of mock drafts, technically I would hit on 3 guys. I hit on Felix, Rice, and I always pick Coburn with either the 134 selection or the 166 selection. So the 194, and we traded back into the draft. They gave up next year's 5th for this, correct? That's the one, yes. Right? Okay, yes. And we eventually got Dallas's anyway, so it didn't really matter. But that just shows you this is the only one we completely just traded in for, right? Everything else we kind of just moved around, right? What do we do for this? We swapped one and gave him a 5th? Is that what we did, right?
Yeah, did they give up a 7th rounder for this one and then the 5th round pick for next year?
Yeah, I think we gave him the 5th next year, plus we moved up from.
Yeah, it was like 249. I want to say the 249th pick. Yeah,
but it just shows.
I want to say that's right.
How much we wanted him. So he was pick 194. Looking at where most scouts and analysts and sites had him, 125th best prospect, 140th. 139 on PFF's board. They had him listed as a 4th rounder. 172 was the worst I saw of all online scouts and analysts. The worst round I saw was 5th. So it was 4th or 5th. Great value in the late 6th. And it's a position of need. It starts the Noddy farewell tour if he progresses and hopefully takes his job. Just a very simple, typical nose plugger who can stuff the run. He's got a good first step. Some scouts complained about how he hadn't maybe progressed the way they wanted him to. He kind of just stayed like that his whole career there, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, that's your one job. Is he knows his bread and butter. He's 6'2", 335. He knows what he's there to do, right? They did ask him, and I heard this earlier, they did ask him to rush the passer more this year, and he finished with 31 pressures this last year, which is more than his 2 years before it.
Right.
So he is starting to add that in. So, with single coverage that he'll get with Jones squeezing out doubles every single time. Hopefully he can develop that more and more and more. They said he wore down as the season progressed. Shocker, he's 6'2", 330. I could see that happening after a long time. Just to be more consistent. A lot of this can be coached up too. So with better conditioning, I can make a case for him maybe having the most defensive snaps of anyone we drafted, actually.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because look at the guys that are ahead of Felix. Who does Felix have to beat out? Omenihu on first and second, Karlaftis, even Dana. That's not that easy. I hope Felix to get end rushes on third down and Omenihu probably to kick in inside. That's just my guess. That would make the most sense at least. But who does Coburn have to beat out? Noddy, a guy that's on a practice squad, Shelton. If he's got to be ecstatic for coming here. You're on a winner, and you have to beat out a guy who just got signed to like a 1-year vet min deal. Like you can make a big name for yourself and a huge impact really fast. Oh yeah, and you're playing next to top 3 D tackle in the entire NFL. So your life will be easy. No one's going to be looking at you. They're going to be looking at the guy next to you every single down. All you got to do is not screw up and not get pushed backwards. It's really all you got to do. And Noddy seemed to actually have that happen to him a lot. So I think he could become a first and second down starter at least sometime this season. It wouldn't shock me at all if he beats him out. And then maybe eventually, if he keeps developing his pass rush, he could be a 3-down D tackle.
Well, and to Teja's point about that, we should hope that he's the one of all these draft picks on the defensive side that plays the most. Because if everybody else, like you were alluding to about all the guys that FAU has to beat out, if he has to try to beat those guys out and he isn't getting the most snaps, that means two things. That the Chiefs were healthy at those positions and everybody was playing at an effective level. Because you got to remember, Mike Dana is playing for his next contract. He's going to, whether he's in Kansas City or somewhere else next year, more than likely somewhere else next year, he's playing for that. He's showcasing himself this year. So he's going to bring it, man, especially against the AFC West, which he always seems to play so well against the Chargers for whatever reason. I think literally like 80% of his career sacks are against the Chargers. So that Dana's going to try to showcase. All these other guys are going to try to play well, Derek Noddy included. I know, Marcus, you might want to close your ears. He's going to try to play his best as well. So yeah. I think that you're going to see the most out of this kid right here, man. That's why I'm so excited, because I think he's going to get the most opportunities. Teja, I could not have said it better than what you said right there, man. I think he's going to be the one with the most opportunities, because it's the position where there's going to be it's the biggest gaping hole of the front seven, and I think he's going to fill that very well with his athleticism and his ability. He's going to wear down, I'm sure, because at college you see it, guys that play college, 11 to 13 games. They're not used to 16, let alone 17 game schedules. And if you're on the Chiefs, you're going to play 20 games a year. So it's going to be different. But again, we go and we talk about this, and it comes full circle every time. Who is the coach? What's the coaching staff about? That's what half of this is about, man. You obviously, when you draft a player, regardless of when you draft them, they have to have the want-to get better and hone in their skills and get refined. But it also comes down to where they go and what their coaching staff situation is. I don't think there's a better coaching staff in the NFL right now than what the Chiefs have, and especially on that defensive line. Joe Cullen is one of the best at what he does. So these guys are going to be playing the interior. You saw the difference. The Chiefs went from, I think, 29th in the league in 2021 in sacks to second. And the only reason they went second is because the Eagles had one of the most historic seasons ever as far as sack totals are concerned. But when it came to pressures and quarterback hits, the Chiefs were just as good as the Eagles were. So Joe Cullen having his fingerprints on this team for a year or two and adding depth like this, I don't see how this isn't going to work out in the Chiefs' favor and improving from even 2022.
We shouldn't have anyone wear down at the end. We have 4 good, maybe not 15 sackers on the ends. We have 4 good rushers. Yeah. 4 good ones between the 4 we got. And at the very least, Coburn can take over the Saunders spot, and he's got that little wiggle to him anyway. So
Right.
he's kind of like a cross between Nani and Saunders, actually, if you watch him play. He's a little quick. He's got quick feet, nimble feet. So it's going to be fun to watch our D-line this year. I'm really, really excited about it.
And he's a plugger, too. We haven't really had a guy like that. I mean, Brandon Williams was that. We brought him in last year. And like we talked about the other day, once we got Brandon Williams, you saw there was a big difference in the way the D-line was playing and actually being able to stop the run, actually getting penetration, and also alleviating double teams from Chris Jones and kind of taking on double teams. To be quite honest with you, with a guy that big, you're going to need a double team. Teja, did you give a grade for that one?
Oh, I go A, easy A plus. There's also something to be said about being surrounded with greatness too, right? When you play near Chris Jones, I feel like it elevates your game. When you play near Patrick Mahomes, I feel like it elevates your game. We have such great players at so many different parts of the field that the young guys around them will just fall in line. You got McDuffie becoming a star, and you got a Snead back there. So DBs are going to want to step up their game. Linebackers, we have no shortage of linebackers at this point. D-line, you see Chris Jones next to you. O-line, we even have a bunch of guys that you're going to want to fall in line and look good. Hence why Wiley had his best season of his career.
Yep.
I just feel like everywhere and receivers, you don't even need that guy there because who's throwing you the ball? So anywhere you look, you're being surrounded by someone great, and not to mention we just won the Super Bowl. So,
sure. Well, that and a little underrated little tidbit here, real quick, is the fact that there's a Chiefs legend that has been putting his. He's been really putting his effort into helping develop some of these pass rushers the Chiefs have been having, in particular George Karlaftis, and that's Tamba Ali. I got a chance to talk with Tamba Ali a couple weeks ago about this very thing. And the beautiful thing about Tamba is he's made himself very, very accessible. He lives in Kansas City still, and he's really showing these guys not only the ropes, but a couple little tricks of the trade. And what's cool about that is that I think that Tamba and George Karlaftis have a lot of similarities in being coverage sack type guys. So something else to look forward to this year, not to veer off from what we're talking about, but year 2 George Karlaftis and the development he has with his hands, because I know he's a bull rusher, and I know he's a guy that loves to use his physical frame and just kind of rolling through tight end or the left tackles, right tackles. I think this year you're going to see some good hand motions from George Karlaftis. You can see him develop that because we've been watching on his Instagram and Tamba Ali's Instagram as well. They've been really putting in the work this offseason. So like you were just talking about, Teja, about all the depth around these young guys that are coming in this year. I mean, look for the depth also to be doing their thing as well. Because like I said, if our guy FAU is fighting for opportunities to get on the field, that's a great thing. Obviously, we want to see him play. But with the guys around him right now, if they're all doing their jobs, then he's going to have to continue to fight, which means the Chiefs are going to be getting the best out of him even in his rookie year. So this is why I've been saying for so long the Chiefs need to continue to hammer home and draft defensive players and make it that much easier for Patrick Mahomes on the other side to where he's not having to outscore teams and he's having to put up 38 points a week. It's fun to watch that. Obviously, we welcome it, but we want to see the Chiefs be able to say, look, we put up 28 points this week, 27 points this week. Wasn't our best outing, but we beat this team by 7-8 points. It's because we had a defense that we can rely on each and every week, and that's what Veach is building out there, and he's building it in a very cheap way.
There's also an extra element with when the Chiefs draft. So when a normal team drafts, they say all the same things. They're always like, "Oh yeah, we need a guy with the right mentality, a winner." You're gonna go 4-13 this year. You want a winner? Well, what do you mean? You want him to look good when you tank and are top 5? Like, give me a break. I know that's coach speak, and you're supposed to say that. It's legitimate with the Kansas City though. Are you ready to come in and compete for championships? That's
so true, man. That's so true.
Commitment to excellence. We're a great team. Like, no, you're not though. Yeah, I don't care what you did 20 years ago. I'm coming into this either dumpster fire or chance to win every year. So when VJ is meeting these guys, it's really important to get in their heads. Yeah. Who are you, and are you ready to come right in and have that pressure on you? Are you ready to compete and be an integral part of a championship run? And even more so this year, because it's like you saw the guys last year, right? Don't think for a second you're going to be riding the bench just collecting paychecks and buying nice cars for this year, okay? It's a lot more than that. Your ass is going to be playing in high leverage and high pressure situations really quickly. So it's all up to you whether you want to be watching your 7th rounder, because we don't care about rounds here. We had a 7th round guy start. We'll have UDFA guys start. It doesn't matter. we have the best player play and we go all the way. We at least our floor, gentlemen, is the AFC Championship. That's the worst we'll do this year based on recent patterns. So
and expectations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Our expectations is really Super Bowl at least, right? But
right.
The floor is AFC Championship. So you got to be ready. Are you guys ready to compete?
Yeah. That's the whole question. And Marcus, that's Teja, you're preaching here, bro, because before last year's draft, I said that the cool thing about these guys coming into Kansas City, no matter what draft class or what draft grade or position they're in the draft, they're coming in here with a very unique situation to inherit. That they're coming in knowing that the pressure is not going to be on them for them to save a franchise. Like, we remember all the days back I remember the draft when Reggie Bush and Mario Williams were coming out, and who was going to go number 1 overall, and we were like, man, you imagine the pressure on one of these two guys going to the Texans, like, of what's going to happen for those guys, knowing they have to be the savior before they've ever taken a single snap in the NFL. Not a single guy that comes into Kansas City over the last 5 years and for the next 5 to 10 years at least is going to ever feel that kind of pressure, because they're going to have those guys already here in place. A culture's already been established to where they're not going to have to set that culture at 21, 22 years old. But at the same time, even though you're not going to have those types of expectations, you are expected, as Teja just said, to walk in and realize there is a great chance, based on how Brett Veach drafts and how the team uses all their players, you're going to play a role on a team that is expected to win Super Bowls. So it's a very unique situation that players have to inherit, like I said, coming into Kansas City. But in my opinion, if I'm a competitor and I'm coming in, whether I had success in the college ranks or not, that's the greatest situation you can walk in, because you know you're going to have your number called, but you know that you're going to be playing free and fluid, because it's not really on you. It's at the start to become that guy, but you know that responsibility will come when you continue to show that you are a guy that Andy Reid can trust. Because if we know anything, rookies are a group of guys that Andy Reid doesn't really acknowledge a lot. He's pretty infamous for that, but there's a reason for that, because he wants you to earn his trust and earn his respect. And once you do that, you become one of his guys. And that's a very unique thing for these guys to inherit. And I love that from that perspective.
We found who we want, I think, in makeup. Right now, you're not even replacing players anymore. You're replacing that role on the team. And we have Snead is not changing the way guys are playing DB. They just found a perfect guy to play it the way they want it to be played. And from here on out, it's just finding clones. Yep. Right? You just find guys that you need to fill those roles year after year after year. Just find, what do we do in the draft? We find a guy who is very Juju-ish in the way he runs his routes and where he ran his routes. We didn't just replace a square with a circle. We're just trying to replace that same little hole every single time. And if we keep doing that, and you get multiple guys every year, if one of those guys hits as a quality starter, then you're good to go. You're fine. We got really lucky last year because they all frigging hit. Yeah. So that's huge lucky. Now, could there be regression with some of those guys? Absolutely. I'm not expecting all those guys to hit the ground running and keep progressing from where they were. There might be some growing pains. Second year is tough. NFL's hard, man. It's like the most genius AI out there. It auto-corrects and it improves every year. There's too many guys that are working their ass off all year round, and we are the number one giant arrow target of who to beat. So we have to keep going and moving and changing things. That's why I never want to stay stagnant with our team.
Yep, 100%. It is interesting though. It's like a college kid like getting interviewed at like Deloitte or like a big company right out of college. It's like, okay, well, this is the big leagues. Are you ready for this? Because otherwise, you can just go get a job at some random spot, because like they'll hire you, the local spot sure will hire you, but a big company is gonna have to look at you and do their due diligence on you. And I mean, obviously, the guys we are selecting are guys primed and ready for this. All mature kids. I mean, that's one thing you look at all the guys we going to last year or this year. They're all mature kids, man. They're all mature and like ready to rock, and that's obviously something that's a specific makeup we're looking for, not only physically, but also the mental aspect too. And all these guys are just
totally. We're big like motion pictures. What we are, we have our actor, we have our roles. We casted them perfectly, and then all you need now are body doubles. Yep. So when that guy's not available, you get the guy who looks closest to that to stand in for the time being. Yeah. Now. And then, it's like a TV show too. You see them replace characters all the time. Just get a guy who's comparable and put him back in there. And as long as the writing and directing is good, we're still rolling, dude. We're still from where we left off. No one will even notice it because we're that good about it. That's what we're doing. Look at what we just talked about it earlier with DTR and going to
Thompson Robinson.
Yeah, going to Cleveland, right? They're trying to find a young, poor man's Watson in case anything happens for a game or two. You have a young buck who resembles that. What did the Ravens do with Lamar? They try to find like a poor man's version in Huntley. We just do that all over the friggin' field. Yeah. We do that with every position. We have a guy we like, just find his poor man's version. Boom. And if he becomes better than them, which he could, that's even better. But as long as he closely resembles it, the drop-off won't be so bad. And if it is, 15 will make up for it.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
And that's the beauty of having that.
Yeah. We need 7 more points for you today, Pat. Got it. Here we go.
I was excited for the fact that it seems that we if the secondary, the young guys progress, and obviously there might be some sophomore slumps, sure. But if the secondary progresses, if Karlov is in the gym with freaking Taba at the crack of dawn every day, learning different hand motions and stuff, and the way he ended the season, all those guys, the secondary, where they ended the season, everyone's coming into their own. Karlov, I think, had at least a half sack in the last 5 games of the season, the regular season. So all these guys are coming into their own. If we could just give Pat a semblance of a good defense for the first time in his professional life, and then also his collegiate life, because the guy's pretty much had to deal with the mediocre to bad defenses pretty much his entire playing career. So giving him just a possibly a good defense. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of scary for the rest of the league, to be quite honest.
I told you a lot of opportunistic DBs too. A lot of guys who play press coverage and are ball hawks. The guys we drafted today are both ball hawks. So if you have a good pass rush, not even getting sacks, but pressures, and you have quarterbacks throwing into tough situations, and you have ball hawks, that could just mean more turnovers for us.
Yep.
I told you guys the stat I always use when it comes to, and why I've been so hell-bent on the Chiefs building a great defense, and that's not unattainable, by the way, even though Patrick Mahomes makes an insane amount of money, even though they just paid Juwan Taylor, even though they're about to pay Chris Jones, it's still very easy, not easy, but it's still attainable to build a great defense around Patrick Mahomes to give him that security blanket. Whenever the Chiefs, since Patrick Mahomes took over, holds other opposing offenses to just 27 points. They are 55-3. Think about that stat, guys. That's not even having a great defensive game. That's 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals. If you can hold teams just to that, you're going to win 97 to 98% of the time. That's how great Patrick Mahomes is, and that's why what Teja was just saying is he is the ultimate ejection button. If things just go to shit, you can just hit that real quick, and he's going to get you out of there.
Yeah, but that is mushroom in Mario Kart.
That's what I'm saying. You don't want to, and this is why, not to veer off even further, but this is why when we were talking about, even though the Chiefs don't have a wide receiver one, people are just assuming, oh, well, that's okay because they did it in 2022. That's not how you build a dynasty where you just assume he's just going to do that every single time. You want to give him you want to build as much around him as you possibly can so where he doesn't have to do that every time. Can he? Yes. But you don't want it to fall in that area every single time. Otherwise, it's just going to be a Mahomes or bust type of scenario, and that's not how you're going to win multiple Super Bowls. That's not how the Chiefs did win multiple Super Bowls. If you look in the Niners game, they turned the ball over multiple times. They forced Jimmy Garoppolo into multiple interceptions. They got the ball out of his hands. They pressured him, all those things. You look in this Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts was the only quarterback that made a mistake in the entire field, and it happened to be a scoop and score by Nick Bolton, who they took in the second round. So that is how you're going to continue to win Super Bowls. That's how the Chiefs will continue to win Super Bowls because Brett Veach knows the assignment just like we do here at the Chief Concern Podcast.
And don't get it wrong. We're Super Bowl champions and we're going to be perennial contenders, but we have room for improvement. We were bottom 10 in turnover differential last year.
Yeah.
We're the champs. Look at the other teams around us, by the way. I'm going to name the teams just below us on. Atlanta, Carolina, Arizona, Washington, Miami, Jets, Raiders, Saints, Colts. I think 7 of those were top 7 teams. It's the teams at the top are all playoff teams, and you have us sitting at -3 differential. It's just crazy that we actually didn't get a lot of takeaways last year, and maybe that's something we want to improve upon.
Yeah, I think that all starts with pressure to create more sacks and getting back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go to our last pick of the day, which was Nick Jones out of Ball State. Really, pretty much what I read about him before he came on. 6'5", 189, a longer type guy. So we like the long, lengthy type cornerbacks. Press man coverage type guy. Going to be huge in special teams, it looks like, but it's another guy. It's another dude we can just add to the secondary. We got Watson last year in the 7th round, and my guy and the Chief Concern's friend Nazir Muhammad or Nazir Johnson. I think Nazir. Nazir Muhammad's the center for gosh,
the old Kentucky center who the Sixers and Jazz and Spurs.
Isn't he the one that pushed LeBron on the court when he was with the Bulls? Was that Nazir Muhammad?
Yeah. Different spelling. It was Nasir, not Nazir. Okay, so but Nazir Johnson, a friend of the show. So we've obviously hit on the 7th round picks, secondary guys, and so. It's not to say, I know people want to write that off. It's a MAC player. He's a cornerback in the 7th round. These guys are just camp bodies. Not like we mentioned, not necessarily with this team. And I think Nazir, they wanted to kind of get Nazir more involved with the defense towards the end of the season. They were starting to do that in some of the blowout games we had, playing nickel for us. And this guy Nick Jones plays a lot of the outside punt coverage and kickoff coverage. And that's where Nazir was. And I don't know if maybe they're going to try to put Nazir in the defense and kind of put different packages for him. So it opens up things for us. But what did you guys think about the Nick Jones pick and the position that we go here?
Let me put it like this: when you get into the 7th round, these guys are what they call crapshoots, or as we like to call them, Brett Veach's one man's trash, another man's treasure. This is where he seems to hit for some weird reason. So I'm overly optimistic about what the potential is of this kid. What I will say is this, in a condensed form, I think that this is going into camp, he's a Jag. I think this is a guy that's just clearly just fighting for a roster spot. But you bring up the Nazir Johnson thing, which I find interesting, because if the Chiefs' goal and plan is to bring Nazir Johnson more up into the majors, if you will, where he's going to be a guy that's going to play more on the defensive side as opposed to like special teams and things of that nature, then I think Nick Jones has got a really good chance of making this team, because this guy possesses something that the Chiefs very much like at corner and defensive back as a whole. He's super freaking long. He's 6 foot tall, 189 pounds. He has almost 33-inch arms and 10-inch hands. And according to all the strengths on NFL.com, everything they talk about is obviously his size and his length, but he's also a very anticipatory type of player. He has good timing. He's effective rerouting and altering timing of routes. He's very physical. He squats and jabs receivers square with punch from press, so he's good at upfront pressure. And if the Chiefs are going to be blitzing a lot and things like that, you're going to want to have a guy that can do that. And races into passing lanes once routes recognition is set in. So he's an anticipatory player. He's got great physical skills. I think this is a guy that is going to go in there and obviously have to work his way up as an unproven commodity, a guy that Chiefs are just throwing a flyer on. But we can't sit here and pretend as if the Chiefs didn't do this just last year, as our guy Teja was talking about how that draft last year was essentially a perfect draft. And one of the biggest reasons why that was is because the Chiefs found guys that became starting players and difference makers in big playoff games, guys that were picking off Joe Burrow multiple times and Trevor Lawrence in playoff games. And playoff games, quite frankly, the Chiefs needed it more than ever, because as we were just talking about the great Patrick Mahomes was playing with one leg. He needed guys to pick him up on the defensive side, and who did it? Joshua Williams, Brian Cook, Jalen Watson, all guys the Chiefs found in the mid to late rounds. Like, these are guys that were brought in last year as rookie guys that became prevalent players for the Chiefs defense. If Nick Jones gets opportunities, like we were just talking about, guys that get an opportunity and gain that trust in the coaching staff, Nick Jones can be one of those guys. Am I expecting to become a starter on this defense? No. I do think he's got a good chance of making the roster once again if Nazir Johnson is getting his opportunities. It's kind of just a caller up, and then you get a guy that takes Nazir Johnson's spot. I like this pick. I don't know what to expect from it, but I see good scenarios that follow this kid. So I'm going to give this a C+. I'm going to keep it very much down the middle because I don't really know what to expect. But from an optimistic standpoint, which I will continue to do until Brett Veach proves me otherwise when it comes to drafting over the last 3 or 4 drafts, I'm going to say that there is purpose for this kid, and I think he can find himself on the 53.
The one thing I'll do is I'll never question a Brett Veach secondary draft pick ever again in my life. He's proven us last year to never do so. Was that Dorsey? Who's the Notre Dame cornerback we drafted like a 3rd round like 5 years ago? Or That was probably one of the worst draft picks we've ever had. And Jesus, he didn't make it out.
Are you talking about Eric Murray?
No.
He had the name like Avius something.
It was Notre Dame cornerback we drafted in the third round. Notre Dame, EB, third round. Chiefs.
Russell.
Yeah, Chamarri Russell.
Oh, yeah.
Was that him? What was that? That was 2016. Okay, so now that was he was on the staff.
Yeah, Kaveri Russell.
Yeah, that was probably the worst pick we've had. And Noah John.
Yeah, he was 74th overall, man. That's a big pick.
That didn't even make it out of the freaking training camp. I mean, he got cut. I mean, that's how bad that was. But
that was John Dorsey's way, though, man. He'd find a star and he'd swing and miss on 3 different ones.
Yeah. But I mean, we don't have to deal with that anymore. So as far as like, Veach is that good at finding secondary guys that we can go in the 7th round. That guy, like you just said, can be a contributing guy on a Super Bowl team, like you mentioned, especially in the playoffs. But a couple things I want to point out here. Our guy Noah John Marshall says Jones was a team captain. And interestingly, he was put on Tillman for the opener versus Tennessee and held him to his lowest yards total of the season, which is a nice little nugget.
Hey, now.
Great nugget.
Another nugget has nothing to do with his play, but here's a quote from Jones. The toughest cover I had while I was at Ball State was Sky Moore. So there you go. Some Mac love in Kansas City. And then blocked a punt in a bowl game, Ball State's first ever program bowl game win. Also had a field goal block in his career. So the guy can get after it on special teams, it looks like here. And yeah, it was Chamarri Russell. So Teja, what is your thoughts on the Nick Jones pick out of Ball State?
I think we touched on a lot already. It solidifies the kind of DB we're going for. Extremely physical, just good size, good length, good break on the ball, good straight line speed, scheme versatile. Not necessarily a shutdown corner, but yeah, I mean, I got that. I think he'd be a higher pick than that if he were a shutdown corner. So, like, yeah, I love some of the scouting reports, not known as a shutdown corner. Like, oh, okay. It's like I'm saying for a receiver in the 7th round, not known to be Calvin Johnson. But I've seen 3 different sites reject him as a 4th, 5th, and 6th. So based on value, pretty good. I just think we're going after, again, poor man's needs. Guys who can play some corner, guys who can play some safety, guys who can line up and hit somebody. They're both pretty physical. They both do not shy away from hitting. That's one thing I noticed about this team, the team from last year. They stuck guys, like quick screens. Like, guys didn't get out as much. Like we didn't have a lot of – I want to see stats on this. It didn't seem like we had a crazy amount of yak for receivers that we had in other seasons. Like, McDuffie sticks. Snead sticks people. We had a lot of corners and safeties that just hit you, wrapped you up, grabbed you by the legs, and didn't let you go. It seems like we have more of that. And again, if we have good pass rush and a bunch of guys who are bogs and we're all over the ball, especially for underneath routes, which what people are going to just try to dink and dunk on us, right? We need those kind of guys back there. I'll just give it a B again. Easy pick for me.
All right.
I'm reading some other grades that are interesting. They gave PFF gave a below average to Conner, and they gave an average to BJ Thompson.
I don't care. Daniel Jeremiah liked Connor's pick, so I'll stick with that. And hey, my boy out here from 610 Sports Radio, Jay Binkley, who I trust more than anybody when it comes to draft grades. He's the guy that said that Conner is one of the steals of the draft, not Chiefs draft, the NFL draft. So I'm gonna stick with that. I'm not giving him like an A+, but considering where they got him, I think that the Chiefs got themselves a little wrecker there.
For sure. So we're talking draft grades. What would you guys give the totality of the draft? If you were to grade the Chiefs draft based on need, based on where we got guys, based on who we got, what would your overall draft grade for all you guys?
I mean, look, last year's draft set the bar so high because Brett Veach just nailed it, and he had 12 picks. They took was it 8 or 9 players? I think it was they took in the draft, 9, 10 players, and he just nailed it. So I think it's hard to try to compare it, but you have to. So I'm going to say this draft class as currently constructed, I'm going to say it's a solid B, man. I hate to sound like I'm repeating Teja here, but it wasn't a great draft, at least to this point. I don't think it's 2022, but they filled needs. It's a solid, good, honest draft class. And what I loved about it the most, obviously, besides the fact that 5 of the 7 draft picks were defensive players, and now 18 of the last 27 draft picks from Brett Veach are defensive players, which is 67% of his last 27 draft picks are defensive players. Besides that, it's the fact that Brett Veach was aggressive as he has ever been, and I love that. When you have double-digit picks and you just won the Super Bowl and you're hosting the draft, dude, go and do what you want and go find the guys you want. So that's actually, I'm talking myself into it. I'm going to say a B+ because of the fact of that. Just the aggressive nature of what Brett Veach did. That tells me, you guys had just mentioned it earlier, I don't know if it was Teja or Marcus, whichever one said it, that you could feel that Brett Veach was getting guys he wanted and he knew the team needed. To be able to get both of those in a guy, going and getting him, I think it was Teja that said it, don't sit back and wait for a guy. If you really want him, you're going to go and trade up and get him. That's what Brett Veach did, and I think that we have a clear and concise understanding of what Brett Veach wanted to do in this draft class, and I think he nailed it. So I'm going to say it was a very solid draft class. Maybe not good as 2022, but good enough to get the job done to help this team move forward for the next 3 to 5 years.
Teja?
I had like a B plus yesterday, right? So today I went A.
You went B, A plus, and then B.
Today.
Yes.
So I'd say B plus for the entire thing then. I mean, look, they had 3. I should give it a B plus or an A. They had 3 guys that I took all mock draft season, man. I'm very proud of myself for having those 3. Hey, look, man. Hey, you'd be happy. Most people are happy when they get one of their draft crushes. 3 of them is pretty damn good. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I will say A-, just because I think it wasn't sexy. I think for me, you can't really compare it from last year's draft. You got to compare every draft by its draft itself, because like this wasn't the best draft we've had, right? As far as the players overall.
We also had 2. We had 2 firsts last year. That was the Tyreek Hill trade draft, so we were spoiled.
Yeah, no,
yes.
for sure. But like look at draft talent wise, it wasn't the best draft, right? That's why the best value of the draft was 75 or 200. That's not a good draft if that's what the best value is.
Yeah.
But based on need and what we drafted and these guys will be playing, a lot of these guys will be playing, and just based on that, I think I'm excited about Coburn, a guy in a day 3 who's probably been playing a lot for us. Rashee Rice, I know it's a rookie receiver in the Chiefs offense, but I'm excited about what he can do for us because he provides something that we don't have on this team right now as currently constructed. And then edge rush, we took care of edge rush, and that's something that I've wanted for a while. So yeah, I think A-. I think we're gonna see a lot of these guys playing, and we took care of all the needs that I had and all the questions I had going into this. Now we have the running back situation. We're gonna have to take care of Jerick McKinnon, but that's all stuff that post draft that we're gonna have to figure out. But
we still haven't gotten a UDFA running back yet.
I think that tells you what we're headed with that. But yeah, so I think A- for that. And then lastly, let's just cover some of the undrafted free agents that we brought in. You
got to start with Nico
Remigio, a guy from Fresno State, which I love. I thought he was a badass at Fresno State. They had another receiver there, who it was kind of like a 1A, 1B thing. But if you look at Remigio, I think he had like 100 yards like almost every game of the season last year.
5th round value.
Yeah.
5th round.
Yeah.
I wonder why he fell out of the draft then. Was there like maybe some off-field stuff going on or injury concerns?
He was kind of a dinged up guy a lot. If I remember correctly, he would check out of the games a lot, kind of dinged up guy, kind of consistent injuries. But like, I mean, yeah, look at his stats last year. I think he like 70 for like 800 or something last year, or like 6.
They also said he was one of the best return men in college football as for a receiver.
Yeah. Also, a Southern Cal guy went to Modern Day High School, so 5'11", 185, so solid. I think Nico Remigio is great. Jerome Carvin from Tennessee played with Trey Smith and Wanya Morris at Tennessee. And based on, if you just type in Jerome Carvin and Trey Smith, you get like 5 pictures pop up on Google. So they're boys, and it's always good to have that camaraderie aspect going into what we have with the team and stuff.
Nico's player comms: Isaiah McKenzie and Greg Dortch.
Ooh, I wouldn't mind either one.
Yeah.
So he's more of a pass catching type of running back, correct?
He's like a slot. He's just pure only slot receiver.
Got it.
Slot receiver with good return.
And they played in like an air raid style offense at Fresno State, so it was kind of just like They were throwing it all the time, slinging it all over the field.
Yeah,
So
They run through the air. Yeah.
It said just give him the ball whenever you can, and he does all his. He's a yak monster. They said.
Other guys we got a linebacker from NC State, Isaiah Moore. I don't know anything about him. Teja, do you know anything about this guy?
No, I didn't really look at. If he's a pure linebacker, I didn't look at any.
Yeah.
I was hoping and I was assuming we weren't going to touch them, so I'm glad we didn't. I
I
don't mind that. UDFA, go nuts, Veach. You get all the friggin' linebackers you want, dude. You could go nuts.
We brought in cornerback from Purdue, Reese Taylor. Those were the guys. We also Missouri State guy Ty Scott, receiver. But outside of that, it looks like all the other guys from mini camp invites. Tackle from La Tech, Josh Moat, were inviting him to camp. Mini camp invite, University of Guelph, Siramani Harrison Baigaggio. Okay, I think he's one of those international guys. Yeah, from Canada. He's one of those international invite guys.
No.
Grand Valley State University. We signed him. Quentin Barrow. GVSU. Did we draft someone from GVSU? No, it's Fayetteville State. No, never mind. Minicamp invite Toledo's a tight end, Jamal Turner. So we did get a tight end. I know some people.
Hey!
A tight end. So Jamal Turner from Toledo. Washburn wide receiver James Letcher Jr. So a minicamp invite. So yeah, that is, and then Cincinnati O lineman Jeremy Cooper, a minicamp invite. So that's what we have right now as far as our undrafted free agents. Obviously, I'm a big fan of my guy Nico Remigio. Fun fact. This is just, I'll ask you guys, and I'll ask people in the chat. Who was the last Fresno State receiver that the Chiefs either drafted or brought in an undrafted free agency? Let's see if you guys can get this.
Was it? Hold on, I'm gonna probably get this wrong, but was it Wiley?
Final answer.
Was his name Wiley?
Deja, can you get his first name?
Devin Wiley?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Devin Wiley, yeah.
Yeah, baby. Taja's got the brains, but you know what? Every once in a while, dude, I can get one. Dude. Woo!
Reese Taylor, the Purdue cornerback, really good kick returner also.
Yeah, I know you got it, buddy. At GVSU, Grand Valley State, Brand Carr. That's who it was. I remember we had someone from GVSU back in the day.
Oh, I thought you meant like current. Okay, never mind. All right.
And then report that we gave the Purdue Reese Taylor decent signing money. Interesting.
He was honorable mention kick returner.
What is? I wonder what decent money is. Like a $20 bill?
Yeah, what do you mean by decent money? Probably.
He was a 6th round grade. It looks like. It's pretty good.
Yeah. And yeah, if we all had beers together, we could probably just sit around just naming random dudes all the time on if we all hung out. I mean, that's sometimes with JD, I'll name like it's funny. I'll name like a random like Chiefs player, but like to him, those are guys he played with, so it's not really
right
to him. But to me, it's like funny, and I'll like kind of chuckle and not laughing because those are his teammates and stuff. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, and he'll have a story about them. Like, oh, yeah.
Another nickel guy, though. Best position will be a nickel where he can carve out a starting role due to excellent run support abilities and his ability to change directions in short areas. So we want guys that can stick you and keep up with those short intermediate routes. That's what it looks like. We nailed 3 of them.
Yeah.
He's small. He's on the smaller end, though. He's like 5'9.5", 5'10".
Reese, I mean, if he's a return man, I mean, we kind of had problems with finding a return man, especially with Tony's injury history. I don't want Tony doing punt returns anymore. I know he had that badass punt return in the punt return in the Super Bowl. We don't need it. Let's find some.
And Nico is too. So it sounds like we're trying to find our return man who's a special teamer.
Hey man.
So we'll carry like 15 receivers. Cool.
I'm telling you, dude, Nico's my guy. Nico's was a draft crush for me, but I didn't think we were. I think once we drafted Rice, I didn't think we were going to get one. So
thought he would have been drafted. Problem is with this draft, it was just loaded with those small, darty receivers, man. Loaded. Yeah. You see a guy with like a 5th or 6th grade going undrafted. That's unless like you said, he has some kind of medical red tape or some like problems off the field. The hell is he going undrafted for? But the problem is you have so many guys that I mean, you had like I saw guys in mocks and analysts loved like the second or third round. It went like the fifth or sixth round.
Yeah, you can only take so many of those guys for a team. Like you can't really draft like two of the same guy. You know, it doesn't make any sense.
They're just loaded. Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem, and we stayed away from that. We got one of the few good big receivers out there, and all the small ones we got one in afterwards.
Yeah, the Chiefs are really deep right now with wide receiver 2s through like 6. That's for sure. they have a lot of guys. A lot of guys.
We talked about this yesterday. You just get a bunch of good guys who can get. We did the math on it too. If each guy gets like 500 yards plus Kelce's and MBS is like 700, 800, 900, you got like 5,000 yards between your receivers. You don't.
If Richie James doesn't make this team, then the Chiefs are doing just fine at wide receiver because he's a guy that I thought brought in, like you were talking about, the whole punt return aspect, maybe some kick return, things like that. If he doesn't even make the team, that means the Chiefs ace the wide receiver room for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Noah points out here. Tom Pelissero says Reese Taylor's signing bonus is $70,000. So.
Congratulations to him, man. That's awesome. And congratulations to No John, man, for being on top of all this. Damn.
Noah's fantastic. He's phenomenal. Yeah. He knows his stuff.
Way to go,
Noah. Don't be a Noah doll. Okay.
Hey, all right.
With that, we're gonna get out. We're gonna get out.
That's my dad joke Saturday right there. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
enjoy it.
I'll pull the cord on that. All right, guys. Well, hey,
that is one of the places to improve, Marshall, for sure. Is the punt return, kick return. If one of our biggest problems last year was probably special teams returning problems.
Yeah. I mean, what was that one game where we had freaking Justin Watson go back there and field the punt? Like, dude,
they're so desperate.
But you know what's weird is that I felt better about him doing that than Sky Moore at that point, man. It was like I felt almost relieved. Even though we knew Justin Watson wasn't built for that, I felt like his hands were more reliable than Sky Moore's at that point. Like it looked like Sky Moore was catching with his feet out there. It was really bad when it came to punt returns.
He was definitely in his own head big time.
Man,
it was like watching the Patriots when like Welker was in his like 15th year. And if like the real punt returner would fumble, they'd throw Welker out there just for the sure hands of fair catching it. We know he'll field it at least. He won't drop it or let it bounce and like waste a bunch of time. And
well, when you have an offense that averages at least 28 points per game for 5 consecutive seasons, you don't really have to worry about getting great punt returns. Just get the damn ball and let Patrick Mahomes do his thing. That's when you let Patrick Mahomes. That's when you put the expectations on Patrick Mahomes. You know what? Hey, we're on the 8-yard line. Go make magic happen.
Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully the Chiefs will restructure Chris Jones pretty soon, and they definitely will, Julia. There's no doubt. I mean, he's the Mahomes on the defense. There's no doubt he's going anywhere. The Mahomes and Jones are the only ones who are, and Kelce. I think we said on our first day doing the post draft show. Those three are never going anywhere.
If Chris Jones was ever going to go ahead. Sorry, Teja.
I was going to say, I will say, if we traded up for Mozzie Smith, I would have been a little worried.
Yes,
I would have been a little more worried about it. We did try.
That's a report.
Or if the Chiefs' first pick,
his replacement by any means, but it would have the fact that we haven't done the restructure and the extension and a trade up investment to a DT, it would make me a little more worried about leverage and all kinds of nonsense I don't even want to deal with. So
yeah, if the Chiefs' first pick would have been more of a Chris Jones style of player, I would have been very concerned. So yeah, any scenario like that, or if we've heard anything regarding a potential holdup in that, but everything we've heard from Chris Jones' side, from even Clark Hunt himself, they've made it very obvious that they want this relationship to continue, and I think I'm almost 100% sure that's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if. If I'm a betting man, it's probably going to happen right before, probably like mid-July, early August would probably be the latest it'll go, but I wouldn't be shocked if in June, because ironically in June of 2022 when he signed his first extension, that's when he got it in June of 2022. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if in June, in the middle of June, we hear that Chris Jones signs a 3 or 4 year deal worth $95 to $115 million.
Is that right before the D-Hop trade?
That's going to actually be right before, because that No. Hey, I will say this. They're not trading for D-Hop now. That is something will not happen. But will they sign him? Yes, they will. He'll be a June 1st cut.
Okay.
He will be a June. I have a scenario real quick. I know, Marcus, we've gone way too long. I get it. But here, 1 year, $5 million with incentives that get him up to $12 million, with a team that can help him win a Super Bowl the first time and get in real legitimacy Super Bowl contention for the first time in his 11-year career. How does DeAndre Hopkins say no to that? He won't. That's the spoiler. He will not. The Chiefs will get DeAndre Hopkins within the next 2 months.
I will say though, but between the two biggest teams going after him, we drafted a top 2-round receiver. They did not.
They drafted
Yes.
Jade.
They did, but that still allows them to go after a big name receiver.
But they also have Stephon Diggs to give him his target. And if he doesn't get targets, you see him throwing fits on the sidelines all the time. Josh Allen don't want to deal with that. And the Ravens, the other team they're rooming in, just went and got Zay Flowers at 20.
Yeah. No, I'm not worried about them anymore.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah.
I think that's over. I think between Zay and OBJ, they're like, okay, we're good now, and you got your money, so shut up.
Yeah.
But I think Buffalo, I still be.
They're the other team. They are the other team. But just with Stephon Diggs, like I said, griping and bitching in the playoffs like he did, with Gabe Davis trying to get some money, he wants to get his targets. Now you have Dawson Knox, then Dalton Kincaid. Like, that's a lot of mouths to feed if you throw DeAndre Hopkins in there. You know he's going to want to get his 120-plus targets.
Definitely.
Are you more worried about getting or not getting D-Hop now that we got kind of a big, shallow radius receiver out there?
I'm so glad you asked because I have those stats ready to pull up right now. I've been tweeting about it for the last 24 hours. So I said this on Twitter. I said this because my co-host Eddie was bringing this up about, that means we're out on the D-Hop sweepstakes. This didn't move the meter for me one bit. I don't think Rashee Rice changes anything when it comes to the D-Hop sweepstakes, and here's the biggest reason why.
All right.
Andy Reid. For the last 10 years, here are the stats from rookie receivers that the Chiefs have drafted in the Andy Reid offense.
I
Go
did
ahead.
bring this up on the show last night. I read him to him, and he still.
Oh, okay. So I don't have to do it.
I have a counter for it already if you want.
No. So I will. All I will say is this: I understand that Rashee Rice is a different style of receiver. He's a 55th overall pick, but again, last season you can make the case the Chiefs did not have a wide receiver one, even though Juju was the guy that they gave all the targets to. He had a lot of yards, things of that nature. But Sky Moore took forever to finally start showing anything, and I love the kid. I think he's going to be special, but it took forever for him to do it, and the Chiefs also invested those 2 picks to get Kadarius Toney. I think he has 2 total touchdowns in his career. All those guys are just as skilled, in my opinion, as Rashee Rice, and they still did not do what they were expected to do in the first year in this offense. I think because of the fact that Rashee Rice is a guy that struggles with certain things when it comes to speed, when it comes to learning an offense, which, by the way, Andy Reid has one of the most detailed offenses in the entire NFL. I don't think this is going to be a guy that's going to come in here and get 750 to 950 yards and 7 touchdowns. Could he be that in 2024 and 2025? Yes. And in fact, I would bet on it. But that's the thing about this situation being so perfect for both the Chiefs and DeAndre Hopkins is it is a fling. It's not a relationship. It's a fling. You get a 1-year deal. You get to help him build his legacy. And then the Super Bowl tax goes into play where he can go get himself a nice little extension with somebody else or another contract with somebody else. And the Chiefs have their wide receiver one this year because this year they still don't have that guy. But in 2024, they probably do. 2025, they probably do. That's not where DeAndre Hopkins comes into play. Where he comes into play and where his relevancy resides is in 2023. That's why he's still a great fit for the Chiefs, despite the fact that Rashee Rice got traded up for in the second round.
Yep. Montana had Jerry Rice, and now Patrick Mahomes had Rashee Rice. So let's see what happens with that.
We got a food group here now, man. That's awesome. We got grains.
Yep. All right, fellas. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in to our post-draft show, our first ever Chief Concerns post-draft show and live stream with Lance coming on and my brother coming on, and I think Teja's gonna move on over to the post-game Chief Concerns show. I think it has to happen. I think us three and JD, whenever JD comes on, that's four. That's four for the other post-game show. I like it. I think you auditioned, Teja. You looked pretty good with it. I know you did the Sixers show with me, but this you proved your worth here, buddy.
I think we might have to get Teja on the Spoken podcast too. I'm just throwing that out there.
Hey, look at this, man! I really parlayed this into a nice little career here. I appreciate it. Yeah, I
mean, think about it. You're the more talented and more handsome Dash brother. That's amazing, dude.
It was a lot of fun, guys. I love the draft. Truth be told, I'm not a huge college football fan in general. I'm like in college football and basketball, I get in at the end of the season. College basketball, I do cram before March Madness so I can gamble like a degenerate. And then I just love the draft process so much. I always have. I get so invested in learning about these guys for like the first time, really, going into the draft. It's so fun. It's been a lot of fun talking to you guys about it.
Absolutely, man. Same here, dude.
Yep, and you can always catch Lance on the Spoken Podcast every Saturday with Lance and his brother, and of course, Chief Concerns every Thursday. Me and JD will break down the draft, and he can tell us about the sights and the sounds that he saw in Kansas City. But yeah, that does it for us. And of course, you can see Teja every week. I don't know how many Chiefs and Sixers fans there are in the ether, but. You can find Teja with myself and Eric Snow, former 76ers point guard, every Tuesday and every Friday during the season. So that does it for us. We hope you guys enjoyed the draft, and we hope you guys enjoyed our coverage of everything. So we'll see you guys.
Later, guys.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.